This week's Who the Folk podcast is sponsored by Joe Nebedrick at Alaris Mortgage. Whether you're buying a home or refinancing, you need a mortgage banker who can put together a fail-proof financing package. Joe Nebedrick at Alaris has the experience you can trust. He's been a Twin Cities mortgage banker for 20 years, and he knows how to navigate complicated funding programs to find the home loan that's right for you. Plus, if you don't close according to your approval letter terms, Alaris will pay the seller $20,000. Go to alaris.com/tcjufolk to start your mortgage application online, or call Joe at 612-730-8282. Alaris Financial NA is a licensed equal housing lender. NMLS ID 416135.
Welcome to this week's Who the Folk podcast. I'm Lonnie Goldsmith, the editor of TC Jewfolk. This week I'm thrilled to be joined by Corey Gordon, a longtime attorney who was part of the prosecution team that secured the conviction of George Floyd's murder. We talk about his role on a squad of talented lawyers, what it was like with the eyes of the world on Minneapolis, and how his Jewish values combine with his legal pursuits on this week's Who the Folk podcast. Corey Gordon, welcome to this week's Who the Folk podcast. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, Corey, you are an attorney. You work at the firm Blackwell and Burke. And if the name Blackwell is familiar to a lot of our listeners, it's because you and Mr. Blackwell were part of the prosecution team, the team of Michael Jordans, as Attorney General Keith Ellison referred to you, that led the successful prosecution of George Floyd's murderer, Derek Chauvin. So first of all, mazel tov to you and the team on achieving this verdict. That's obviously a monumental work that you and the group put in.
Thank you. Thank you, Lonnie.
So I guess sort of the obvious first question. How do you feel? As we're recording this, it's Thursday. It's not even 48 hours post verdict. How are you feeling personally, professionally, as you've had a couple days now to sit with what's taken place?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I am grateful. I feel that we have accomplished some measure of justice, and did so in a just way. Since this is a Jewish podcast, I guess I want to bear in mind the admonition "Tzedek tzedek tirdof," and I think we did that, and that was certainly something that we wanted to do. It wasn't just achieving a conviction, but to do it to make sure that the trial was fair, to make sure that it was something that, as it turns out, of course, the whole country, essentially the whole world, was able to see it from start to finish, and I think we demonstrated in a robust way and a completely fair way the justness of the conviction. I'm grateful for it. I think justice was achieved.
There's a lot of issues about the ins and outs of the trial that we're not going to talk about. You mentioned before we started recording, the team is sticking together. There are 3 more officers to be tried later this summer. There are possible appellate issues. So there's certain elements that I'm going to try not to ask about, and you're not going to be able to answer. But I did want to ask, though, at least for you personally, have you ever you've been an attorney for a long time. Have you ever been involved in a trial quite so scrutinized?
I doubt any of us have.
I would imagine, but you never know.
I certainly haven't, and perhaps the OJ trial might have, had that kind of focus. Certainly in Minnesota, where we've literally never had a televised trial. That is a horse of a different color for a Minnesota practitioner.
So I guess go back to the beginning of when the Attorney General takes this case on, and he's putting this team together, his Michael Jordans together to try this case. How were you approached, and did you have any reticence about going forward as part of this group?
I'll answer the second part of that question first, because that's the easier one. Absolutely none. No reticence at all. The Attorney General approached my partner, Jerry Blackwell, and asked him if he would be a part of the trial team. Jerry has earned a reputation amongst lawyers as being, I guess I'll say this without fear of contradiction at this point. He's the best trial lawyer in the state, perhaps in the country. Not even perhaps, he is. I mean, Jerry is just an amazing individual, an amazing trial lawyer, and the Attorney General knew him and wanted him to be a part of the team. Interestingly, it had come on the heels of the tragic murder of Mr. Floyd. Came just before we had a hearing before the Minnesota Pardons Board, which could consist of the governor, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, and the Attorney General, and we sought and obtained a posthumous pardon for the one man who was convicted 100 years ago, or now 101 years ago, of rape in conjunction with the what has come to be known as the Duluth lynchings. Mm-hmm. So, and that hearing before the Pardon Board was in the beginning of June of last year, just after things the murder happened and the demonstrations and had erupted, and the timing was amazing, coincidental, completely coincidental. We'd been working on that posthumous pardon for a year before that, but it seemed to flow rather naturally from the posthumous pardon to helping to achieve justice 100 years too late, to trying to achieve justice in more real time. So the Attorney General approached Jerry, and he agreed to sign on, and asked me if I would work with him as I've been doing for over 30 years. The answer was rather self-evident. And we had a couple of other lawyers in the firm who also worked on our internal, the Blackwell Burke team, if you will.
Okay. And I mean, you talked about Jerry as being possibly the best trial lawyer in the country, certainly the state. I'm no lawyer. I've watched a little bit of Law and Order in my day, but that's about as close as I'll come to, a trial. And his rebuttal in the closing argument was, for me, a work of art. That was, I mean, to land that plane in incredibly tough conditions it was unbelievable.
Yeah, and I think everyone who watched the trial got a chance to see that, and that's not something that happens a lot. But
right,
and I've been watching him work magic with juries for 3 decades, so I was proud of him.
Sure, and
knew he would do it, and didn't know exactly how he'd do it, but he's an amazing person.
So, given the caliber of attorneys that all of you are, that the Attorney General helped pull together, how do you divide up responsibilities, and where did what role did you play in this all-star group?
Yeah, and thank you, because that's I don't want to take anything away from the other lawyers who were involved.
Oh no, absolutely not. It was obviously and I know the Attorney General in his remarks on Tuesday pointed out that this was a large group effort, but obviously everybody's got a role to play.
Yeah, and I think initially water had to find its own level. We had to figure out where are the different talents best suited. Steve Slisher from the Maslin firm was another outside lawyer who was recruited to be part of the team, and he and Jerry, I think, would have to be considered the two lead in-court prosecutors. And then there was another outside lawyer, Lola Velasquez Aguilu, who's now at Medtronic. But Lola had been at the U.S. Attorney's Office. Steve had previously been at the U.S. Attorney's Office, previously at the Attorney General's office, and he was a county attorney in, oh boy, I'm going to mess this up, but I think it may have been McLeod County. It was one of the rural counties, and he was also a former JAG lawyer. So the backdrop of all that is the other volunteer lawyers in the group all had significant criminal background experience. We didn't. Jerry and I have never been involved in a criminal trial before.
Really?
Yeah. And it was for us, it was a learning experience. We've been doing complex civil litigation for a long time, and much of the trial skill and the way you put together a case, it translates. But then there are just certain rules and approaches that one has to take as in a criminal case that are different. We had to learn for example, and this this is, I think, sort of relates back to that tzedek tirdof concept. A prosecutor has an obligation, not to achieve victory. It's to achieve justice, and to do it in a way that is entirely fair and impartial. And that includes, for example, a very strong obligation to turn over exculpatory evidence. The instant you get it, you basically have to turn over something that might be considered exculpatory, and to err on the side of caution. If something seems neutral or maybe even helpful to you, well, it still might be is it exculpatory or not? I mean, reasonable minds can differ. Turn it over. Civil litigation is a little bit different. We have as civil litigators, we have certainly our ethical constraints, and we're officers of the court, and honesty and integrity. But we also have our goal is to win. Our goal is to provide zealous representation of our clients, and to achieve the best outcome for our clients as the facts and law will allow. Prosecutor has that extra duty. It's not just to achieve the victory, but to pursue justice in a just way.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, Steve worked in the Winona County Attorney's Office.
Winona, thank you.
Yes. So, given the I mean, don't mean to put it this way, but I guess, the lack of criminal experience that you and Jerry have, I guess I'm just sort of, curious. Was it because of Jerry's sort of oratory skills that he became sort of one of the co-leads?
In part.
Okay.
I think Jerry's strengths, aside, his oratory skills, Jerry has the most amazing ability to connect with anybody, to connect with anybody at the level that he finds them. So he can connect with jurors, he can connect with professors who write textbooks, he can connect with 9-year-old girls who are scared to death, and he just, in a word, Jerry is a mensch. And he's just, it makes him a superb trial lawyer and a superb human being. But in addition to those, courtroom skills, Jerry brings a strategic approach to litigation that is honed through many years of handling civil litigation. And I think, what we were able to bring to the table that may have been of benefit was this sort of stepping back and having, we weren't locked into doing things the way prosecutors do things normally. We approached it as if it were a complex civil lawsuit, because that's all we know, frankly. And the tug and the pull of the criminal prosecutorial approach versus the civil litigators complex litigation approach, thesis, antithesis, and what you saw hopefully was a synthesis of that. For example, and specifically, I think one of our roles, and certainly my role in specific, was directed towards the medical causation part of it. We are in the kind of civil cases we handle, we're just very used to complex causation issues, and whether that's medical testimony, very commonly engineering testimony, perhaps whatever field of endeavor where you could, expert witnesses can come in. That's what we do.
Right.
And I think that in a case like this where there were issues of medical causation that aren't perhaps commonly there in a lot of criminal prosecutions. It's maybe more issues of motive, opportunity, identification, things like that. But somebody dies from a bullet to the head, you don't really need a lot of medical testimonies to how that happened.
Right. And that's got to be I would think a really interesting part of your job, primarily as a civil litigator, is that you have to make yourself, if not expert, certainly knowledgeable enough to be able to ask the right questions of the experts from one trial to the next.
Yeah. I'll be honest. I've been practicing law for 41 years, and I love, I was going to say, I love going to work each day. For the last year and a half, going to work has meant going to the basement. But the reason I still love my job and don't plan on hanging up my shoes very soon is that I never know what new thing I'm gonna need to learn, and I love that's the process that I am the most trivial person you could ever find, because I know so many superficial things about so many different topics. I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on TV, but I spend my days interacting with every kind of doctor and learning just enough to be able to hopefully ask the right questions and present a case. And that's for me has always been the appealing part of legal practice and civil litigation, is I'm always learning something new.
One of the things that I think is fairly unique about this case is, and as was pointed out at trial, it's right there in front of you. It was live on camera.
Yeah, unfortunately, as has been pointed out by lots of different people, there have been a lot of other cases, against police officers where it was, live on camera.
Yeah.
And, there's still, clearly it's an uphill battle to convince a jury to find that a police officer in the course of their duties committed a crime. But we had the good fortune of having multiple different videos and from multiple different angles. So, for example, in the Rodney King case, I think they had there was one brief video, and they were able to effectively argue there. Look, you didn't see what happened before, and you're only seeing a one angle, and it's 2-dimensional, and yada yada yada. And we know what happened there.
So you've mentioned a couple times the saying "Tzedek tirdof." How do your Jewish values play not just into this case and the work you've done with it, but over your career of practicing law?
Oh, I think I can draw a straight line to most everything I've done in the practice of law, and my Jewish values, ethics, and teachings. I certainly do not consider myself a Talmudic scholar, and any Talmudic scholar would, would fall over laughing if I were to claim that mantle. But I do think that the background of our historical background and our culture of learning and questioning and looking at things from every side. There's always at least two sides to a story, right? There are more than two sides. There's and that the process that we see with play out in the Mishnah and the Gemara, the debates amongst the rabbis on the most nuanced points. I don't know. I guess it somewhere in my background that gave me a level of comfort in sitting in a conference room and arguing over the most seemingly inconsequential of points, and synthesizing out an understanding, and the concept of just justice is so pervasive in our teachings and in our culture, and that it's not surprising that many Jewish people end up becoming lawyers. Oh, those of us who can't stand the sight of blood.
Well, I am with you on that one, at least, for sure. Well, Corey, thank you so much. Last two questions. We're going to go completely off. The two questions we always end on is completely off the board from what we've talked about, but at least end in a slightly lighthearted way. What is your favorite Jewish food?
Oh, probably hard salami, and I'll make people sick. I love hard salami on a bagel with mayonnaise.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I know. That's the reaction I get from a lot of people. But
hard salami is great.
Mayonnaise, it's really.
I think you lost me there. But listen, fried up with some eggs, though, also good.
Yeah, sure. Can't go wrong. And well, pickles. You're too young to remember, but I grew up in an era where the local delicatessens, Bernie's and Lincoln Dell and Boulevard Dell, all had pickle bowls on the table.
I grew up in Detroit, and a lot of the delis in suburban Detroit would basket of bread and a basket of pickles.
I mean, I would love to go to a delicatessen and I'd consume an entire bowl of pickles and everything else was commentary, as you will.
That's right.
But I miss those pickle bowls. I'm sure it was some lawyer somewhere who sued somebody and got the pickle bowls taken off the table.
I would also say the lack of delis worthy of the pickle bowl right now that's a different story, though.
Yeah, I mean, getting good deli food in Minnesota is a challenge. I mean,
yeah, that's a different story for a different time, though.
When I grew up, I was literally 3 blocks away from Boulevard Dell.
That would be so dangerous.
By the way, that's an odd Minnesotaism. When I was growing up, delicatessens, we called them dells, not delis, and no one else does. Everyone else in the world calls them delis.
Yes,
Minnesotans, at least in St. Louis Park, we call them dells.
Yeah, I don't understand that. I mean, I've been here almost 19 years now. I still don't understand that. Nobody's been able to explain it to me either.
But a number of years ago, somebody decided they were going to start an authentic delicatessen, and they chose to open it in Wayzata, which makes one wonder how authentic it's going to start out. But
right,
I did go there once, and I remember the young waitress came over and was taking our order, and I pointed to what I wanted. She said, "Oh, you mean the?" I think I said, "Yeah, I'll have an order of crepe lach." And she looked at me funny, and said, "Oh, you mean the crepe latch?"
Oh boy.
Okay.
Oh boy, that's. I no wonder that restaurant isn't there anymore. What is your favorite Jewish holiday?
Passover.
How come?
I love the Seder. I love this year I did it virtually, but I love the getting together, the telling of the story, I guess I can't say I love the food. Some of the food.
It's fair.
The bread of affliction is aptly named.
For sure. And I think there's such a social justice component to Passover as well. And I feel like maybe this year with the role that you're playing, that you've just finished and you're going to continue playing at least through this next trial, it feels like maybe there's something there.
Yeah. I'm thinking my assignment during one of the Seders was to speak to the issue of redemption, and it was kind of helpful to me to focus on that in the context of we were in the midst of obviously the Chauvin trial, and I one of the readings that helped inform me for my brief comments, and brief is relative, brief for me, I guess. We are told, I am the Lord your God who led you out of Egypt. What comes next? Not, I am the Lord your God who led you out of Egypt because you were oppressed and I didn't like my people being oppressed, and so I saved you and now you're free. No, I led you out of Egypt to be your God. And I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank on the author of the little analysis that I read, but it's part of the deal. Okay, God brought us out of Egypt not because we were oppressed and enslaved, and he just wanted to do a good thing and free us, but he brought us out to fulfill our part of the bargain. Uphold our covenant, and part of so much a part of what that bargain is being just and acting justly and treating our fellow human beings in a just way. We were strangers in Egypt, and we need to remember that and to treat others the way we want to be treated.
Well, Corey Gordon, thank you so much for joining me this week, for giving us some insight into what these last months have been like from you on the inside of certainly the most watched trial, or the only watched trial in Minnesota, and certainly one of the most watched trials in this country for many, many years. Thank you for your work, for your service, and good luck with the rest of the rest of the trial coming up.
Thank you, Lonnie. It's been a pleasure.
The Who the Folk podcast is part of the Jew Folk Podcast Network, a product of Jew Folk Inc. Please subscribe, rate, and review the show wherever you get your podcasts. If you have suggestions for other podcast guests, please email them to me at editor@tcjewfolk.com. For our other shows, check out tcjewfolk.com/podcast.